witness, do you remember telling me last night that the only prisoners of war handed over to the police were these guilty of crimes or misdemeanors?
So habe ich mich nicht ausgedrückt, sondern ich habe gesagt, wenn die Polizei...
I did not express myself that way. I said if the police apprehended prisoners of war, those who had committed a crime during the escape, as far as I know, were detained by the police and were not returned to the camp. To what extent the police kept prisoners of war without returning them to a camp, I was able to gather from interrogations and explanations here.
Now, the escape about which I'm asking you took place on the night of the 24th to the 25th of March. I want you to have that date in mind. The decision to murder these young officers must have been taken very quickly, because the first murder was actually took place on the 26th of March. You agree with that? It must have been taken quickly.
Ich nehme an, dass der Befehl, so wie ich später gehört habe, sofort...
I assume that this order, as I was informed later, was given immediately, but it had no connection with this document.
No, we're finished with that document now. We're going on to this, the murder of these young men. The a Großfahndung, a general hue and cry, I think would be the English translation, was also issued at once in order that these men should be arrested. Isn't that so?
Das ist richtig bei jedem Ausbruch.
That is correct. Whenever there was an escape and such a large number of prisoners escaped, automatically in the whole Reich a hue and cry was raised. That is, all authorities had to be on the lookout to recapture the prisoners.
So that in order to give this order to murder these men and for a Großfahndung, there must have been a meeting of Hitler, a Tenerate with Himmler or Kaltenbrunner, in order that that order would be put into effect. Is that so?
Das ist richtig.
That is correct.
I think you told the tribunal that right up to the end, your loyalty to the Fuehrer was unshaken. Is that right?
Das ist richtig.
That is correct.
Do you still seek to justify and glorify Hitler after he had ordered the murder of these 50 young flying officers at Stalag Luft III?
Ich habe weder den Führer Adolf Hitler zu rechtfertigen noch zu glorifizieren.
I am here neither to justify the Führer Adolf Hitler nor to glorify him. I am here only to emphasize that I remained faithful to him, for I believe in keeping one's oath not in good times only, but also in bad times when it is much more difficult. As to your reference to the 50 airmen, I never opposed the Führer so clearly and strongly as in this matter, and I gave him my views about it. After that, no conversation between the Führer and myself took place for months.
The Führer at Tenerate must have had full knowledge of what was happening with regard to concentration camps, the treatment of the Jews and the treatment of the people who were working, mustn't he?
Ich deutete vorhin an, dass es meine Meinung ist, dass der Führer über
I already mentioned it as my opinion that the Führer did not know about details in concentration camps, about atrocities as described here, As far as I know him, I do not believe he was informed. But insofar as
I'm not asking about details, I'm asking about the murder of 4 or 5 million people. Are you suggesting that nobody in power in Germany, except Himmler and perhaps Kaltenbrunner, knew about that?
Ich bin nach wie vor der Meinung,
I am still of the opinion that the Fuhrer did not know about these figures.
If I understand you, Defendant Goering, you said that all the basic decisions concerning foreign, political, and military matters were taken by Hitler alone. Do I understand you rightly?
jawohl.
Yes, certainly. After all, he was the Fuhrer.
Следует ли понимать это так, что Гитлер принимал решение?
Am I to understand that Hitler took these decisions without listening to the opinions of the experts who studied the questions and the intelligence reports on those matters?
Das war verschieden. In einzelnen Fällen ließ sich selbstverständlich Unterlagen geben, ohne dass...
It depended upon the circumstances. In certain cases, he would ask for data to be submitted to him without the experts knowing the exact reason. In other cases, he would explain to his advisors that he intended to do and get from them the data and their opinion. Final decisions he took himself as Supreme Commander.
В таком случае, правильно ли я понимаю вас, что при решении серьезных вопросов
In that case, do I understand you correctly when you say that when making important decisions, Hitler used the analysis and material given to him by his close collaborators, who advised him according to their specialty? Is that correct?
Given to him partly by his collaborators, partly, as in the case of communication and intelligence, by other members of the departments concerned.
здесь, в судебном заседании, ваш свидетель Боденшафт
On March 8th, here in the tribunal, your witness Bodenschatz stated that you told him in March of 1945 that many Jews were killed and that for that you will have to pay dearly. Do you remember this testimony of your witness?
An diese Aussage in dieser Form, wie sie mir eben...
This testimony, in the form in which it was translated now, I do not recollect at all. The witness Bodenschatz never said it that way. I asked that the record of the session be brought in.
А как говорил свидетель Боденшафт?
How did Bodenschatz say that? Do you remember?
dass wenn wir den Krieg verlieren,
That if we lost the war, we would have to pay dearly.
Почему?
Why? For the murders which you had perpetrated?
Nein, ganz allgemein.
No, quite generally. And after all, we have experienced just that.